30 000, polarité horizontale. Le satellite Amos 15, position 15 degrés est, fréquence 12 333, symbol rate 30 000, polarité verticale. For You Télévision est également disponible sur les bouquets créés au Linksuicom, Star Times, sur nos différentes plateformes numériques et sur l'application For You Media, téléchargeable sur Play Store. En bonus, profitez de la pertinence de nos sujets d'actualité et de l'interactivité de toutes nos émissions. Participez par appel WhatsApp au +237 693 589 668. Sur Skype, For You TV. For You Télévision, votre nouvelle chaîne panafricaine qui vous offre une autre vision du monde.
Le nouveau mouvement populaire et son président, André Bandakani, vous convient aux journées du panafricanisme du 21e siècle, 6e congrès panafricaniste, sous le thème « Passons à l'autre bord ». Durant 3 jours, le NMP va vous entretenir sur plusieurs thématiques telles le panafricanisme d'hier à aujourd'hui, ce qu'il est, ce qu'il n'est pas, par le professeur Mathias Eric Ounangini. Le professeur Mebometa Ndongo va s'atteler sur le panafricanisme comme alternative globaliste et gouvernementale à l'impérialisme global. Le président André Bandakani, le professeur Belek et le professeur Binan Bikoy ne sont pas en reste. Ils seront de la partie avec des ateliers sur la planète Terre, village négro-africain et l'Afrique face au 21e siècle, problème stratégique du nouveau monde. Les 29, 30 et 31 juillet à Douala, le combat panafricaniste sera une fois de plus à l'honneur avec des avancées encourageantes. Pour y participer, une seule adresse, la salle des banquets de la Providence, 6 à la rue Koloko, Bonapriso, par Douala.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the 6 p.m. primetime newscast of For You Television. We first begin with our top stories. We now talk Russian-African ties, where Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has ended his 4-nation tour in Africa. This is in a bid to normalize international order with their global partners. On to our African-France relations. Today marks the end of French President Emmanuel Macron's 3-nation visit, and this ended in Guinea-Conakry or Guinea-Bissau with his Guinean counterpart, President Sissoko Embalo. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast of For You Television. For presentation, I am Jix Nabisi. We kick off with Russia-African ties, where Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has wrapped up his 4-nation African tour in Ethiopia, where he condemned Africa's reliance on the US dollar. The details are in the following report.
Minister Sergei Lavrov have been on a high-profile trip to Africa in the throes of Russia's war on Ukraine in a bid to normalize international order. Lavrov was in Addis Ababa on Wednesday, July 27, to wrap up a 4-nation African tour aimed at drumming up support for Moscow at a time of confrontation with Western powers over the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Russian minister's trip to Egypt, the Republic of Congo, Uganda and Ethiopia, the headquarters of the 54-nation African Union, depicts that Russia is not isolated internationally despite expansive Western sanctions. As observed, Lavrov's tour comes at a time when French President Emmanuel Macron is on a tour to Africa to reboot France's colonial agreements. During the meeting in Ethiopia, the minister reiterated Moscow's support towards Addis Ababa's efforts to stabilize its internal political situation, in remarks that sought to draw a contrast with what he presented as meddling with the West. However, he said we are living in an important historic period and the strongest will triumph.
Living through a very important historical period. A period where we will all be deciding what kind of universe we are going to have and to live for our children and grandchildren. The universe which is based on the United Nations Charter, which says that the United Nations is founded on the principle of sovereign equality of states, or we will have the world where the right of force, the right of the strongest.
This explains why 25 out of Africa's 54 states, mindful of economic interests and historic ties with both Russia and the West, declined to take sides over Ukraine.
We now talk Nigeria, where the Nigerian army says it has found 2 more of the abducted female students that were abducted by Boko Haram insurgents there in Nigeria. The abduction in 2014 led to protests across Nigeria and the world. The details are with you, Moni Manu.
13 scrap metal collectors in northeast Nigeria's Borno state have been killed by a bomb they excavated, security forces communicated on Tuesday. 16 metal scavengers from a displaced persons camp in Bama found the bomb while digging for scrap on Monday in the bush in the outskirts of the town. Bama is located in a region that has seen prolonged conflict between the Nigerian government and jihadist insurgents. The bomb went off as they were pushing it in a cart towards the town, killing 13 people and leaving 3 seriously wounded. Nigeria's military is battling to end a 13-year jihadist insurgency in the country's northeast regions that has killed more than 40,000 people and displaced 2.2 million more. Boko Haram seized Bama in 2014 and declared it a Khilafah. In March 2015, Nigerian troops aided by Chadian soldiers recovered back most of the territory after months-long intensive ground and area operations. Residents who had fled the town returned 3 years later, with many of them living in displaced camps, as the town was substantially destroyed during the fighting to retake it. Most of the displaced who live in these camps rely on food handouts from aid agencies, forcing many to turn to felling trees in the arid regions for firewood and scavenging for metal scraps, which they sell to buy food.
Thank you, Mwanze, for that report. We now leave Nigeria to take you to Tunisia, where the country now has a new constitution. This was a result of the July 25, 2022 referendum there in the country. The details are in the following report.
Tunisians on July 25 were called upon to cast their votes in the referendum. The referendum in question being the adoption of a new constitution in which the country's president will have more powers than the Tunisian government. 96.4% of participants of the 30.5% voted on a yes for the adoption of a new constitution. This was announced by the president of the Independent Higher Authority for Elections, Farouk Bouaskar. However, most of Said's rivals accused the Electoral Board of fraud and called for a boycott to the referendum. Though the turnout was low, it was higher than the single figures many had expected. For some Tunisians, Kaid's move sparked fears of a return to autocracy, but it was welcomed by others fed up with high inflation, unemployment, political corruption, and a system they deemed had brought little improvements. Monday's vote came a year to the day after the president sacked the government and suspended parliament in a dramatic blow to the only democracy to have emerged from the 2011 Arab Spring uprisings.
Now take you back to Nigeria, where protesters across the country are marching over unresolved conflict between university workers and the government. The Nigerian Labour Congress on Tuesday embarked on a 2-day nationwide demonstrations alongside the Academic Staff Union. The details are with you, Moni Manu.
On Wednesday, the protest took place in Abuja. The current strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities started on February 14. What was announced as a 1-month warning strike was followed by another 8-week strike before running into an indefinite strike, which led to the opposition of no work, no pay by the federal government. At the heart of the strike, the conclusion of the renegotiation of the 2009 FGN/ASU agreement, which unions say was not implemented, as well as demands including the abrogation of the IP scheme, development of the UTAS, payments of promotion arrears. Despite negotiations with the authorities, no compromise was reached. ASU's national president, Professor Emmanuel Osedeke, urged Nigerians to support them in the struggle. Meantime, Nigeria's President Buhari directed the education minister to proffer a solution to the ASU strike by early August.
We now leave Nigeria to take you to Kenya, where barely 2 weeks to the August 9 presidential polls in the West African country, preparations have intensified with different aspirants trying to cement their votes. The details are in the following report.
Less than 2 weeks to go for the August 9 presidential polls, aspirants in the race have intensified their efforts to woo the population. The polls come 5 years after the country held its general elections in 2017, where incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta triumphed over his longtime rival Raila Odinga. Over time, President Kenyatta endorsed Raila over his deputy President William Ruto, who apparently had to be endorsed in his place. The move sparked a lot of controversies in the economic-hit country. Given the tight nature of the race, Vince Nowino, a journalist with Nation Media Group Nairobi, tells us that the outcome might be tough and whoever loses might not be able to accept defeat, like has been the case in the West African nation.
There's a lot of preparedness from the government, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is the electoral body, and the candidates are also well prepared, I can say. But what I can tell you is that it's going to be a very tight race, and whoever will lose will find it difficult to accept the results, as I know it's always been the case in Kenya in the last 10 or 15 or 20 years.
He added that the front-runners Deputy Ruto and Raila have different visions from the Kenyan people. While Ruto says he will revamp the Kenyan economy, prioritizing education, health and business, Odinga, along with his running mate Korea, intend to curb corruption in the country.
I think he has a plan to bring about economic change to the minorities. And for Raila Odinga, he's capitalizing on the need to end corruption. As you know, corruption is one of the biggest challenges in the country, and a lot of money, a lot of government funds meant for development.
Africans over the years have seen candidates in presidential races give promises without fulfillment, and Kenya is at the verge of an economic downturn. Will Kenya's case be different? That is the question Africans, most especially Kenyans in the beautiful country, are asking.
As we did told you in one of our top stories, now we talk Franco-African relations. Today marks the end of the President Emmanuel Macron's three-nation tour across the continent after his re-election. The following report highlights some key decisions during his visit, as you tell us, Mwanzi.
Emmanuel Macron on July 25th began a three-nation tour of African states, his first trip to the continent since winning re-elections. His first stop in the continent was in Cameroon. While in the country, he held economic, agricultural, security and historical talks with the country's leader, President Paul Biya. Macron also described the global food crisis as one of Russia's weapons of war during his visit to Cameroon. Macron's delegation also put out that they will seek investment opportunities in the agricultural sector through a food and agricultural resilience mission initiative launched in March with the African Union to boost fruit production. Macron equally added that archives on the French colonial rule in Cameroon will be opened in full and asked historians to shed light on the period's painful moments. His next tour was the Benin Republic, where he pledged to support Benin by investing in security, education, and a new French cultural center in a joint press conference with Benin's President Patrice Talon in Cotonou on July 27th. Guinea-Bissau is Macron's last tour of his three-leg trip to the African continent.
We now take you to Rwanda, where the government of the East African country is anticipating of exploring Lake Kivu for the production of gas for industrial cooking as well as fuel. The gas produced from this lake could be used by the end of 2023, as you tell us, Futso.
The project involved the construction of an offshore gas extraction facility along with onshore gas processing and compression plants for CNG, compressed natural gas. This comes in the wake of the global struggle of high prices of gas and fuel currently in Rwanda. A 12-kilogram cooking gas cylinder costs at least 18,500 Rwanda francs, an increase of about a half compared to 12,600 Rwanda francs in 2020.
It's going to be constructed in 2 phases. So the first phase is going to be composed of 1 barge. So the location where we are standing now, it's where the barge is going to be assembled. And then after, it's going to be taken to the location where the gas is going to be extracted, which is approximately 30 to 35 kilometers from here. So now, after extracting the gas, it goes through a series of purification such that we can attain the natural gas, which is the CNG gas that we need. So now the gas is going to be brought via pipes. It's going to come below the lake, and it's going to come onshore.
The $400 million deal between the Rwandan government and Gasmet Energy Company to extract and process methane from Lake Kivu into CNG was signed in February 2019. However, it was delayed by various factors, including the outbreak COVID-19 pandemic.
Probably 2 years looking at that aspects of the project, and we were engaged with international investors to bring the money into the country. Unfortunately, COVID slowed everything in the world down, and it certainly put us really about 12 months behind where we would have liked to have been. But we're at the point now where we are moving ahead. We've started site clearing, we are initiating construction. The funding is largely there. We're just in the process of closing that funding now. So the project should start to see identifiable physical progress now.
The Gasmet company signed a 25-year concession agreement with the Rwandan government to extract 40 million standard cubic feet per day of natural compressed gas.
We now take you back to Nigeria, where the government or the Nigerian military army says it has rescued 2 other female students that were abducted in 2014 by a Boko Haram insurgent. The details are with you, Moni Manu.
There was global outrage when Islamists seized nearly 300 girls in Nigeria's northeastern town of Chibok in 2014. Most of the victims have either been freed or escaped since then, but dozens remain unaccounted for. The 2 women found on Monday during military operations against extremists in northeastern Nigeria appear to have given birth while in captivity, as they were both found with children. It was not until May 2016 that the first girl was found. A few others have managed to escape over the years. Between 2016 and 2018, 103 of the victims were freed following negotiations between the Nigerian government and the militants. Campaign group Bring Back Our Girls says around 100 are still missing. Reports indicate that the militants have recently been abandoning their remaining captives, partly due to an intense multinational military campaign against them.
And gentlemen, that report on Nigeria puts a stop, finally end to these 6 p.m. primetime newscasts over 4U television. For presentation, I have been Jigs in Nabise. As you keep following our transmissions, God bless Africa.
Votre chaîne de télévision panafricaine 4U Télévision, désormais dans vos ménages, via le satellite Eutelsat CSA, position 16 degrés Est, fréquence 12521, symbol rate 30 000, polarité horizontale. Le satellite Amos 15, position 15 degrés Est, fréquence 12333, symbol rate 30 000, polarité verticale. 4U Télévision est également disponible sur les bouquets créés au Link3com, StarTimes, sur nos différentes plateformes numériques et sur l'application 4U Media, téléchargeable sur Play Store. En bonus, profitez de la pertinence de nos sujets d'actualité et de l'interactivité de toutes nos émissions. Participez par appel WhatsApp au +237 693 589 668. Sur Skype, For You TV. For You Télévision, votre nouvelle chaîne panafricaine qui vous offre une autre vision du monde.
Le nouveau mouvement populaire et son président, André Bandakani, vous convient aux journées du panafricanisme du 21e siècle, 6e congrès panafricaniste, sous le thème « Passons à l'autre bord ». Durant 3 jours, le NMP va vous entretenir sur plusieurs thématiques telles le panafricanisme d'hier à aujourd'hui, ce qu'il est, ce qu'il n'est pas, par le professeur Mathias Eric Ounangini. Le professeur Mebometa Ndongo va s'atteler sur le panafricanisme comme alternative globaliste et gouvernementale à l'impérialisme global. Le président André Bandakani, le professeur Belek et le professeur Binan Bikoy ne sont pas en reste. Ils seront de la partie avec des ateliers sur la planète Terre, village négro-africain et l'Afrique face au 21e siècle, problème stratégique du Nouveau Monde. Les 29, 30 et 31 juillet à Douala, le combat panafricaniste sera une fois de plus à l'honneur avec des avancées encourageantes. Pour y participer, une seule adresse, la salle des banquets de la Providence, 6 à la rue Coloko, Bonapriso, par Douala.